in relation to online and social media, the first thing I'd say is this is not a law-free zone. And I think that's clear from the prosecutions and sentencing. Today we're due sentencing for online behaviour. That's a reminder to everyone that whether you're directly involved or whether you're remotely involved, you're culpable and you will be put before the courts if you've broken the law. Today we're due sentencing for online behaviour. Today we're due sentencing for online behaviour.
Culpable. How's that sound?
Well, it must be true if Darth Starmer says so.
Darth Starmer. Gay Starmer. That's what I would say. Here's here in that punching bag.
Yeah.
Oh. Chase me. All right, folks. So, what are we going to be doing today? We have a quick update on the intramuscular injections. I want to get to the paper on Fibrinogen. We'll take a look at because Brian Ardis has been on Stu Peters again pushing the cholesterol crystals being nanotech. So I just thought we'd take a look at some of their nonsense that they're pumping out and dispel the more lurid as we try to hone in on, well, a base reality where things make sense and we can diffuse, pun intended, the worst predations of the corporations. And yeah, they're holding it over us, bro. And what do we do? How do we fight back here? Well, what does he saying? Like I say, I would encourage everyone to go and watch the Mike Benz stream, if you want to call it a stream, with I've forgotten his name. Not Tucker.
Yeah,
Tucker.
Yeah.
It was Tucker. Yeah, and you know what was he basically saying in that? They've again, it's this sort of sneaky legalese, which basically has taken this idea of, and this is why they've, I think, gone to such extraordinary lengths to sort of denude the old, particularly in the American context of it's corporations are the ones around which the legal definition of democracy is being pushed or being promulgated in executive meetings, World Economic Forum, get-togethers, etc., etc. And what you think is democracy is not what they think, and this comes down to it being a construct for the around which the institutes orbit, and you are their chattel in this case. And well, I don't know. I mean, like it's I guess it comes down to how much they think they can just ride roughshod over the natural law, right? That's the legal definition. The laws that come from God. Isn't that natural law?
Yes, that is natural law.
Yeah. And, you know, it comes down to Americans start going around calling yourself, say, constitutional republic again. I know it's a bit more wordy than democracy, but democracy is just the rule of the mob over the individual. And we're look, why do I spend time on something that I've already gone and answered? It was a lot of effort to go and look at what are people showing that they think are nanotech structures in vaccine shots. Why devote time to that now when we've already sort of got that answer? And the reason I'm doing that is because I think a lot of that battleground still revolves around this premise of how they run legal rings around you, because people think they're working with commonly understood definitions, but that's not what's happening. They're changing those literally as we speak, and in effect, you're agreeing to in the legal. And I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but I get the basics, where you agree to stand under their contracts, and it's all contract law, and it's all who can bring force to bear in those contract negotiations. So what we should be aiming to do is move and sidestep that particular trap. There's plenty of information out there on the internet and how to do that. Look, I get it that the free men on the land and sovereign people's movements, etc., they can be somewhat clownish, I guess, is a way of describing it, by thinking that they're going to go and step into the corporation's legal courts and beat them at their own game. My advice would be just to sidestep and run in the complete opposite direction for any of their entrapment purposes. And Comforting Nom says, how do I think Malone is involved? Chaos agent in disguise. Oh, I don't know, dude. What do you think?
I don't see it as a disguise. I mean,
he comes from Biowarfare world, and
I mean, he's currently being. I don't know if you've seen this this event that's coming up in DC on September 29th, which, well, I'll be back there for a brief period, and so the day after my birthday, I think I'm going to be up in DC, and it's called Rescue the Republic, and it uses like a Star Wars theme.
No shit.
Oh! Let me send you this picture. Oh my god!
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to bring this up on the chat or on the screen because this is amazeballs. The artwork, it's basically Rescue the Republic, and it's got Washington crossing the Delaware, a very famous painting. But it mixes Star Wars with that, and as you can see, it's got Trump, Brett Weinstein. No, look at the art at the top.
Oh, okay.
It's got Tulsi. It's got Robert Malone. And so, I don't hate all of these people, but the fact that Malone is being lionized as one of these people is just fucking ridiculous to me.
Yeah, well, like I say, a lot of it feels contrived. It's kayfabe.
Oh, say it is. No. Yeah, there we go. Say it isn't so. But yes, Malone is the biggest kayfabe of the COVID pandemic. That's the way I would go with it.
Yeah, and
Pure kayfabe.
Where's Colonel McGregor in there?
Actually, he is in there.
Is he?
Yes, he's going to be there.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, keep scrolling. Or well, he was in there somewhere.
He is.
Yep, Colonel
there
Douglas
he is.
McGregor.
Yeah. Well, look, you'll need stories to cling on to, I guess. And this, how does the blob, for want of a better expression, I guess, how does it continue its grip on power?
Well, it puts people in events like this, like Malone, because like Matt Taibbi, I can respect. I can even respect Russell Brand.
I can't.
Well, well, I mean, you you followed him a little bit longer than I have, but he does have a CD past. I used to work for one of those people. I actually don't mind Tulsi, but yes, this is at least 50% kayfabe, and I am concerned. But yeah, there you go. Robert Malone is a Revolutionary War hero, basically. Either that or he's Han Solo. I can't quite tell.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm not sure how to.
Yeah,
Look, look. You want there to be change, right? And in this instance, anything's an improvement on what we have. I just think it would be naive to think that them sort of, they take their foot off the accelerator somewhat. They get individuals in that make pretense to affecting change at the bureaucratic level, and then hope that everything's just gonna. Has it ever been normal? I'm not so sure, but I don't know, man. As like I say, the battleground is the United States for sure, and how that goes down affects everyone globally, and
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, part of me kind of doesn't want to go because that'd be a great time to just take out a whole bunch of these people all at one time.
Look, now go and network, bro. That's what I would do.
Well, yeah, I want to as long as I'm not going to get martyred in the process.
Yeah, yeah. There's
So send your shekels while I'm still alive.
yes, for funeral arrangements.
Yes. No. But anyway, yeah. So I figured you'd want to see that since you mentioned Harry Malone. Yeah, he's a fucking evil
Well, look,
human
could
being.
he
I've
say way
shook his
more.
hand twice, and he's been gouty and sweaty both times. So, I mean, I don't know what you want.
Yeah, we need more people who compulsively indulge their appetites in control of the most powerful nation on the planet.
Something tells me he's humped the cacodemon.
Yes.
Just a guess.
Yes. All right. So let's do this. Let's get into the stream because it'll be
yeah. Let's make it official.
Yeah, a manuscript reading stream. So it'll be long basically. So let's do this. Shout out to Good Doggy for this one. Elites versus Coons. And those who are a fan of Doom,
I love Doom. Oh my
God.
It's one of my favorite games of all time.
That's awesome.
I went back and played it in an emulator about 6 or 7 years ago.
You know what? I saw they've done one now where they've spruced it all up with what do they call that lighting effect now that you need the NVIDIA RTXs for ray tracing.
Yeah,
it's all ray traced and.
Except for the original.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh God, I love that. The first two games are just amazing.
And
Duke Nukem. Did you ever play Duke Nukem?
I did play Duke Nukem. I never quite got into that one as much. I liked.
Yeah, you gotta get a little deeper into the game.
I liked Unreal.
It's a little harder to. It's a little harder to like get into it. Once you get into it, it's pretty good.
Yeah, Unreal, Doom.
I didn't like it.
And Half-Life were my sort of,
Half-Life.
Yeah, were my
amazing.
go-to shooters at the time. But yeah, just at the bottom there, you'll notice we're playing on the No Messiah level. That's right, folks. There's no cavalry. There's no cavalry coming. Just coons.
Oh God,
just coons.
I love it. Who made that one?
Good Doggy.
Oh God, that's excellent. Good job, Good Doggy. Good job.
Word, bro. And look, what is this kayfabe game they're playing, right? And if these are sort of contrived scripts, etc., then I mean, shout out to the script writers for getting everyone going along. Did they really need to deploy biological and chemical warfare in the script, really, to affect political change? Not so.
No,
I'd
but you
rather
know.
they didn't. But yeah, this is where we're at. So let's do the housekeeping real quick. And if someone didn't hear, wondering who I am, that's me, Dr. McCairn. I'm now renegade scientist, trying to keep a pace of the chemical, biological warfare, legal warfare they're waging against you. You can find me. Go to ResearchGate. It's a good place where my work is aggregated, as is Commander Rickasu, Charles Rixey, the renegade bioweapons expert, chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons expert, I should add.
And radiological, but
Radiological.
who's counting?
Doesn't that just come under nuclear?
No, they actually separated it out.
Oh, okay.
Because that was a gay NATO thing, actually. It used to just be It used to just be NBC, and then they put radiological in there because they're gay.
Why?
Because it's gay-do. I don't know. I don't know what you want from me. But yeah, I that happened in 2006, and I thought it was the dumbest shit ever. But anyway.
I suppose that it's to encompass dirty bombs.
Yeah, I mean, basically that, and for hazardous chemicals and other things that fall outside the spectrum of nuclear, biological, and technically chemical offensive weapons, to cover a broader spectrum. They have a bunch of different new names, but they're all lame. But anyway, yes, I used to do actual real work, and then I became a renegade scientist and researcher. So,
it's real work, though. Look, man, I went home from the lab and I just crashed and slept right through till 8 this morning. Maybe 8:40 it was, and I looked at the clock and I got up, man. It just took me 2 hours, man, just to begin thinking of moving.
Oh no! After I left here, I went, got mailing supplies, came back here, spent an hour and a half trying to figure out the printer.
Yeah.
Then went home, spent an hour trying to figure out that printer. Finally got it to work, and then I walked for 10,000 steps when it was like 10 o'clock at night. So
yeah, I didn't do any of that step malarkey.
trying to stay in shape.
Yeah, I didn't even eat dinner, man. Like,
Damn.
Emmy was like, dinner's nearly ready. I was like, I just need to lay down and just dunk. I was out. I woke up. I want to say it was like 1:30 in the morning. I was just like, like if I get up now, then the day's ruined. So I just crawled back in and went unconscious. Lived the fever dreams of my life. Again and again and again. Is it just a fever dream, Commander Rixu? Is this? Am I just locked in a?
I don't know, but if it is a fever dream,
I mean, it's kind of nice.
I'd rather live my fever dream driving a Mustang than a K car. So feel free to donate your fever dream donations.
I don't think you can get Mustangs here, though, bro.
No, I don't want a Mustang here. Oh, that would be nice to get a little K car
down the roads.
If anyone wants to donate specifically, I can get. We know some K cars. One in particular we might be able to get for $750, which allowed me to have my own wheels. That would be amazeballs. So feel free. If we see a dono for $750, then we know that's what it's for.
$750?
Isn't that what you were saying? For that little Suzuki you think he might offer?
Oh, yeah. Maybe. I don't know. He might. Lord says endless hamster injections for the fever dream. Yeah.
What was it? I was listening to Joe Rogan last night, listening to the rest of that Elizondo whatever thing.
I tried to listen to that. I got into bed and I can't remember any of it. Just passed out.
That may have been the Rohypnol,
Mm.
but no, he talks about how that maybe they were talking about how they would like shoot a wildebeest to like track and trace it,
Mm.
and so you're from the perspective of okay, this is what how aliens view us. So we go, we drug a wildebeest. He drops down. He wakes up. His ass hurts.
Mm.
And he just has these fuzzy memories of these creatures like crawling all over him, and maybe that's what the aliens are doing to us.
Mm.
And so I don't know. Maybe it is a fever dream.
You know, he made the part we watched in the lab where he was talking about, like, okay, let's believe them that they have endless footage and high resolution, detailed footage that essentially is incontrovertible in terms of proof of these other entities. And look, I want them to be real, dude. I really do. As a kid, I was really like, wow, that would be so dope. Aliens and flying saucers. And he made this point about why is that, because he was talking about how people would be upset that he's allowed to go and speak publicly. So there's this sort of split in the I don't know, the people that would be in control of that, whoever that is in the security apparatus. And he basically said that people thinking they're benevolent, and he was like, why would you think that they're benevolent? And I guess it comes down to that, I don't know, like urban myth or story that they hovered over US bases and deactivated nuclear weapons. But then he was like, well, we have reports of them activating them on the Russian side, them not intervening in nuclear accidents. They didn't stop the wars that led to the use of the atomic weapons. And the strategic thinking was, well, they're good, neutral, or bad. And focusing on the last one, it was if your job is to prevent invasion, and I forgot what he called it, but basically it was a sort of like you're trying to do operations behind enemy lines, you get ready for invasion, and if you're caught, basically it forces the hand of the person that's going to invade, and then it sort of switches on that clock. So by not acknowledging we see and hear them, basically we're stalling the emergence of these entities, whatever they are.
I don't know. I disagree. I think that if they could do whatever they want whenever they want, and so if they wanted to overtake us, they could at any moment at their leisure. So that makes me tend to be more optimistic about what they might be and what their intentions might be. But that's just me. I know people have their own opinions.
Yeah, well, I've relayed my entity encounters on stream before. That seemed pretty fucking real to me. But then,
oh God, oh yes. I tell you what, if that happened to me, well, once again, that would not be an invasion. They were not trying, because you said whatever it was, it saw that you were awake, and it left. So if their intentions, if they could do whatever the fuck they wanted.
Look, man, if you can materialize and warp out of a TV set, then you can do what the fuck you want.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I'm less concerned about them than I am our own deep state, because both may be trying to anally rape me, but only one will tax me for it.
You don't know. Maybe they've got worse tax rates. We don't know yet. That's the.
I would like to think they've evolved above loaning and interest, but
yeah, I guess. All right. So, of course, the most important part of housekeeping is bookmark McCairnDojo.com. I've put the request in. Charles' name will appear there for his PayPal link. At the moment, hit the big blue button, the hypno-colored button, and you shall keep the lab going. There's a, how do we say? Well, we'll talk about the science in a second, but of course, what else do we have on there? Oh yes, of course, you can watch the stream live on there, should you so wish, and you can join our Discord. You can be registered to be notified if you would like more digital detritus raining down on you, but at least you know I'm live. But of course, wait.
Sorry, I was muting that.
Oh. I was going to say, they're here. I hear voices.
Miss H-Bomb is correct. Your printers suck. Yes, your printers do suck. That is correct.
Fuck, man, you just got to be able to speak their language is all. What can I tell you?
Well, clearly I don't. I had to rig it. I had to pull the plug from the soundboard in the other room just to you, because for some reason the
Oh yeah, printers are always like that one's brand new and it still uses those dippy old massive USB. I forget what they're called now.
Yeah, it was obnoxious. I wasted 2.5 hours last night. So.
Well, I wouldn't have responded anyway if you'd sent me a DM.
Well, I did send you a DM and you didn't respond. So yes, so I just kept pushing through, and eventually I got it figured out.
I don't know, man. Just like too much sleep is well, almost as bad as no sleep this morning. I was like, oof, like that. If that's what it feels like when you're 50 years old, fuck getting to 70. Must be a nightmare. All right. So we're going to do a little bit of science. So just to remind everyone, you can go to no, that's not the page I wanted. Prion Research Hub. Let's do that. And no, that's the video. Where's our Prion? There. There you go. Oh, 404 page. God damn it, you just can't get the staff these days. What is that? Oh well, never mind. usually that page does what there is. Prion Research Investigation page. Obviously had an old address in my browser there, but that's where we'll aggregate the experiments that we're doing, and we'll try to disseminate them as widely as possible. And yeah, I mean, but I don't know what else we can do in the current environment. I guess start writing Substacks as a way to sort of circumvent the publication jungle, right? So
yeah, I mean, we do also need to try.
Find a time in the day, dude.
Yeah,
I can't.
We need more funds, and we need to hire a. Oh wait, I do have a lot of experience writing. Never mind. I guess I just don't really have the excuse. I've written a thesis.
Same. And papers, but like I've got PTSD from writing. That's the thing. Just
what's ironic is that I wrote a 100-page thesis that had 94 citations, and just my 3-page watchmaker update has 112 citations. So that should give you an idea of the level of the research that
the one that Judas had removed from Kennedy's.
Well, no, not specifically. He just removed everything, diffuse, my name, everything that I wrote. Even took credit for a quote of mine. Or he was quoted in the diffuse chapter with basically my argument, which I thought was great.
Wow. Well, you know,
But hey, you know, he got that extra 110 grand that I didn't by staying on Ph.D. for an extra year. So, because he's clearly a better scientist than me. So,
This I am
and
not
better
so
human
sure
being.
of. All right. So, yeah, you want to go to Prion Research or synapticlabs.com. I'll put the link in the chat. I'll put it in Rumble chat. Because I presume most people that are in the Discord already know. And there. All right. Let's see. Someone tell Kevin to fix the Rumble chat. Yeah, it's broken at the moment. So the software that we used, which is Social Stream Ninja, it had major updates and it's not behaving like it should behave. So you can use Discord, Twitch, or YouTube. There's a YouTube channel you can go to that will do just the live stream, and that will aggregate the chat there. But Rumble, I can see the Rumble chat, but not as much as it's not integrating it, I'm afraid. And you know, maybe Restream has got their act together and enabled Rumble chat to be integrated, because Social Stream Ninja is painful to use. It's cool when it does work, but all right. So let's do this. I've covered that. Did that. All right. So I want to there's a lot of going on in the chat. But anyone's down to fight with enough whiskey, Irish or bot? Yeah. That's usually been my experience. I like Courtney. She hosted your pal Kumi. I don't know who that is.
Courtney Taylor?
I like Courtney. She hosted your pal Kumi. And there's a link to JJQ Explains Infectious Clones, the Courtney Turner podcast. I don't know who that is. Brand says they're tightening the screws. Oh yeah, of course they're tightening the screws. There's new systems emergent, right? If you haven't cottoned on to that part, I don't know what to tell you. How to
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. How you navigate past it? I'm not so sure that there's a. Let's see. Did that one. Prion is behaving like Nano regarding mRNA and mitochondria folding. Yeah, but that's just like saying, look, any molecular biology is essentially like nanotech, right? In effect, right? Because, or molecular biology, because you're dealing with coordinated structures that do these very, very complex tasks. And in effect, as our technology progresses towards miniaturization and nano, I don't know what we would call that, the nano event horizon, then what you will do is you will mimic nature in what it does and then try to augment it. And in doing so, I would argue that any modification in that space becomes inherently dual use. And so we need to step very carefully. It's not like I'm against the work in that domain if it was to be used for good. The problem is that good seems to be an elastic term for how corporations want to entangle you in their contracts. But look, you've clicked those boxes, right, Charles? I agree. I want to just get me to. I want to use your fucking printer. I agree to everything and all the small print. And who really checks what's in there? No one. So let's do that. Time is moving. I'm froze. Don't know what that means. Meaning the reason Prion is so difficult to map pathways is because it's nano elemental malfunction. Yeah, it's a breakdown at a very fundamental level, and because essentially it would map directly to a peptide that you produce, makes it very difficult in order to extract out and see if there is a cascading process going on that's disease based. Let's see, mycoplasma fermentans binds to and invades HeLa cells, involvement of plasminogen and urokinase. Don't know what that means, but atypical lipid composition in purified relict plastid. I don't know what that means. Malaria parasites. Yeah, I don't think we're looking at anything like malaria. Let's see. Named a previously undescribed parasitic symbiont of the annelid Scolopolis. Scoloplos with apicomplexan-like traits named Symbiont X was specifically related to Chimera vila. Again, I don't know. What I did see was an article today, which I will pull up. It's I will do, which was amyloids in what was it? Some worm. Some worm is capable of imbuing traits. So you're getting the passing down of traits across generations that's not encoded by the genetic material, but by the amyloid-like peptides. And that's a that's a big jump in our conceptual understanding. But I can't grab the paper yet. It's just come out and you have to pay for it, so I can't say much more beyond that. So moving on, let's do this. We did that. So just what's the latest data that we got with respect to doing intramuscular injection 100 times the dose, with the caveat that it's a year old, and do we have the hamsters just keeled over and died? No, it's the green trace there. I've smoothed out the data just to try to make it clearer to for people looking. Black is control, red is the first week after intracardiac exposure, blue is the second week, and then green is the week after intramuscular injection. And basically we don't see anything really at all. I do see errors in my code, though I've got to go and address. But why, I think it's, well, we'll do the anatomy on these hamsters, but likely the vaccine is a dud, but we will do the peptide expression, see if we see anything with immunohistochemistry. That equipment is, well, the ship is docking today, so hopefully next week we'll have that here, and then those experiments will take time, and I'm waiting on new vaccines. My concern is that we may only get Replicon vaccine, and Pfizer might be difficult to get unless I can find another source in Japan. But it is what it is. But yeah, basically we're not seeing anything right now. And this is why you're supporting this project, right? For us to give you as unbiased and as rapid assessment as we can. And like I say, all we've got at the moment is the we've got that one vial that we know contained plasmid, right? But it's old, a year old. All right, so yeah, well, in a sense, it's a good thing, right? I don't want to find anything, right? And especially don't want to find prions or anything approaching that level of perfidy. But speaking of prions, Commander Rixie, this was sent to me. This is September 2024. Let's see, spongiform encephalopathy market research report information by type Kreutzfeldt-Jakob variant CJD, BSE, Scrapie, CWD, diagnosis, histopathology, a bunch of keywords there. But the spongiform encephalopathy market size was valued at US dollars 0.06 billion in 2023. The global spongiform encephalopathy industry is projected to grow from it's already a big increase in 2024 to 0.08 billion compared to the previous year, to 0.5 billion by 2032, exhibiting a compound annual growth rate of 6.3% during the forecast period, which is basically 8 years.
Yeah, that's a poorly put together graph. It's not showing the proper jump. But no, that is
How do you like them apples?
Well, like say I'll be eating apples because I don't want to be eating beef. But unfortunately, most of that growth is probably coming from mRNA injections and not mad cow. So
Yes, potentially, or the neuroinvasive pathogens themselves. And this gets to what we were talking about yesterday, which is, are we seeing the Geert van den Bosch hypothesis, come into fruition, which is that we covered that there was this big surge. We looked at a nurse who was saying that the symptoms are way worse again. It's like the original. And is this a consequence of people's the avenues that the immune system could deploy, sort of running or coming up against the ability of the virus to circumvent it through adaptation? And in this, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't want to, I don't have enough background in immune biology to really say whether Geert van den Bosch is right or wrong. It seems coherent.
Well, I mean, Cooey apparently did, even though he was a patch clamp physiologist. He was able to speak with some authority on the matter and say that Geert van den Bosch has no idea what he's talking about, and is part of the with the worst case scenario.
And and as a corollary, a traitor.
That's correct.
And a meddler.
I mean, he's already called me a traitor to my country, so
yeah,
it's clear that I haven't served and defended the Constitution to the same degree that Jonathan Cooey has. So I need to up my game, apparently.
Yes. A bit more fantastical thinking, a bit less hoorah, charge at the enemy.
Yeah, apparently his PTSD from burning every bridge around him is...
Well, it's a military strategy. Sometimes you've got to burn and bomb bridges.
Well, if you wanted to isolate yourself, he's doing a really good job of that. But unfortunately, he,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was a murder-suicide. He took a whole bunch of other people down with him.
Yeah.
Tried to, so...
And look, all you can do, again, is just... you have to operate with what you can measure. And... whatever he would claim, you're still seeing people getting diagnosed with COVID. I don't think it's a hot background, particularly when it's acting out of phase with where it should be happening, right? So we're getting multiple waves per year, which is not just the flu season. There seems to be a distinct summer.
Well, and once again, it's tough to tease it out just by seasonality, because the normal human coronaviruses bounce around they take turns throughout the year. So it's hard to tease out whether what we're seeing with COVID is just COVID settling into the rhythm in the milieu and it's taking its turn, or if this is something aggressively different that's related to what Gert Van de Bosch is talking about. We don't have enough information to really know that now, but it could be either or both. And so we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, I guess only it could be either or both, unless you don't believe that free range RNA can pandemic, in which case problem solved and we can just go home. So,
well, I've always been a proponent of like under any normal circumstance, I think we're very far from any normal circumstances here. Is you let nature sort of run its course and the body adapt, and those that can't adapt, well, eventually it's just evolution and they'll fall away. But this is not natural, and it's not free range, and it's not a just a seasonal influenza like illness. I don't think that in the slightest. And you see this discussion happen all the time, right? Which is you literally see people, long COVID is a myth. Well, really, what medical evidence would you base that on when we can find the physiological fingerprint of it just in the microclotting, which is something we'll get to in this stream?
Yeah, there's literally multiple different ways, multiple different markers that are being found that point to, relate to, and help explain what the symptomology of long COVID in its various forms. There's multiple markers that they're finding, including some of which we've talked about before. We briefly mentioned last night or yesterday, just the comparison between the differences between HIV or AIDS and COVID-19, and there are similarities and differences. And in a similar way, there's other markers like what we're going to talk about now. But when it comes to global spongiform encephalopathy market overview, this is interesting, but to me, the much more powerful forecasts were the ones dealing with just more amyloid disorders that we looked at a few months ago, as I recall. I don't know if you remember those.
Yes.
Those are more striking and exponentially larger sums of money. So, but once again, this is pointing in the same direction, which they're forecasting. And once again, starting in 2020, they're forecasting a massive increase in something on the spectrum.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate that. There's something wrong with that graph. And
oh,
scale,
that's why I was. That's why I was saying a minute ago. Like they didn't format it right, because that's not. They're not showing the bars correctly.
Well, let's see what they say though, because there is a. Or maybe you have to pay for the report to get the proper graph. But so transmissible spongiform encephalopathies. So think of these as discrete to the Alzheimer, Parkinson's. Like, even though I don't think we can definitively dismiss them as being transmissible at this point.
Parkinson's isn't real.
Yes, Parkinson's is fake and gay. Right, so TSEs is a group of neurodegenerative diseases that affect central nervous systems, and more specifically the brain and spinal cord. In addition to humans, this condition also affects certain animal species such as sheep, goats, felines, mink, cattle, and deer. Transmissible spongiform encephalopathy is also known as prion disease, as prions are believed to be the causative agent. Prions are transmissible pathogenic agents that are able to induce abnormal folding of some normal cellular proteins, i.e. the prion proteins. And if you've been paying attention here, it's not just those. Remember, we're in a world now of cross-seeding amyloids, and all ripe for all a wet dream for the bioweaponeer out there, the budding bioweaponeer. So prion proteins are most abundantly found in the brain. Most commonly known prion diseases in humans are fatal familial insomnia, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, Gerstmann-Strauss-Schenker syndrome, and Kuru. Most commonly identified animal prion diseases are transmissible mink encephalopathy, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, scrapie, and others. I want to get to we get the market trends. Where's the growth coming in? What are they spending the money on? I don't want to read all this. It's actually quite long. Trying to look real quick. Treatment insights. So on the basis of treatment, the market is classified into small molecules and immunotherapies. Small molecules are further classified into pentasan polysulfate, quinacrine, so quinine as a basis, so quercetin, perhaps, up your quercetin levels, amphotericin B, which is an antibiotic, funnily enough, and others. Immunotherapies are further classified into antibody-based immunotherapies and cell-based immunotherapies. Antibody-based immunotherapies include passive immunization, active immunization, and targeting disease-specific epitopes. Cell-based immunotherapies include DC vaccines. What would dendritic cell vaccines in this instance?
That does appear to be what you're talking about.
And adoptive transfer of CD4 and T cells. And the
Yeah, I didn't think so.
do any of them really work? Not yet. I mean, there's perhaps some evidence of being able to slow it down. Can you stop it in its tracks? No. And the only way to get through this is you've got to make sure your genes somehow get past the evolutionary bottleneck. Some of the key players in the spongiform encephalopathy market are, look at that at the top,
Oh, that's weird.
Teva.
Is that the Israeli company?
That would be
Oh, that is the Israeli company.
The Jew.
leading the charge with therapies in that space. Just I don't know what to tell you, folks. The data plots where it plots, I'm afraid. Okay, so any others there that we...
Lonza? Where's Lonza?
I don't know.
I can't remember where they're based out of. That's Swiss. And Adamas Pharmaceuticals.
Well, all I can say is I'm glad I got the RT Quick machine in now before demand skyrockets and the price skyrockets with it.
Oh, well, Adamas Pharmaceuticals is not Israeli, but it is in Rockville, Maryland, which is like 15 minutes from Bethesda, which is where NIH is. I'm sure that's
just another one of those cohinkydinks.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to, I guess, should we do that? I'll say that one for another day. But so nanotechnology in Pfizer Comirnaty. This came out yesterday. So it's this David Nixon fella. We've seen him on what's she called? Z Media. The woman in, I want to say she's from New Zealand.
I don't remember.
And basically,
Not
again,
salt, not cholesterol.
yeah. And how has he determined this? By essentially doing dark field microscopy and time lapsing it and watching essentially crystals emerge, like you would see in any in any solution that you were precipitating out.
I'm scared.
And
Oh no.
Look,
Nanobots.
you can't make those sweeping claims when you haven't done the proper tests. But well, we can have a look at the videos. But
Oh my god.
well, first of all, I'll tell you that's heavily laden with bacteria.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just crystallization. It's not forming. Like, even if you said, okay, there's nano machines in there, but okay, why are they making just crystals then? And
because those nanomachines are making cubic zirconia, clearly, to make cheap diamonds. I don't know.
I guess.
Who the fuck knows?
I don't, like I said, I don't know. Like, there's just a big market for this. And look, man, we'd be minted if we just said, "Oh yeah, there it is," and it would just say it's making this nanotech, etc. And no,
Are you saying that I should jump ship and go work for Stu Peters and be like, Stu, you'll never guess. You got nanobot proof.
yeah,
Colloidal silver.
yeah, and so yeah, this brings me to this other one, right, which is tobacco. So this is where Ardis has been on Stu Peters literally in the last week, right? And they've basically taken and dried out a dental vaccine, which I can assure you is that's not a complex colloid of lipid nanoparticles. That's a small molecule drug that's in essentially physiological solution containing salts and sugars, basically.
What was the anesthetic? Was it just nitric oxide or what was it?
We looked at it the other day, right, in that PDF, and I forget the name, but there was someone who did, or supposedly they identified a couple of dark spots that from the Raman spectra look like what we see when we looked at graphene oxide, which is it all that surprising when there's graphene grease in high wear materials, and pharmaceutical production lines could have graphene grease in them. But
they would use graphene grease because, forgive me if I get this wrong. I'll see if I can get it right. Graphene grease because it's a stable atom that is more durable, basically. Am I right?
Yes, so they have it has a low friction coefficient, right? That's why you can write with a lead or graphite pencil, right? Because the molecules slip off each other, and graphite grease, and you can get graphene grease. I checked, and it might be. So I was watching. So I was taking interest in what it is that you're looking at, which is what are these molecules being used for, and they're making them at industrial scales. So apparently you can add just small amounts to things like epoxy resins, and it increases their strength sort of exponentially.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so is graphene out there? Yeah, for sure. Are they putting it in you and beaming you with gigahertz for the transformation to terahertz oscillations?
To Telestai.
Yeah, I'm not buying that too much. So let's see. So a new study by microscopist LaQuinta Columna has shown that self-assembling entities found inside Pfizer, Moderna, and most recently dental anesthetic are totally destroyed by nicotine mixture derived from, I guess that's steeping tobacco in distilled water. Researcher Rafa Calvin made this discovery by isolating a sample of dental anesthetic for 30 days, then applying a nicotine mixture taken from a solution of 1 gram of tobacco and 5 cc's of distilled water. In the video below, you can see when the nicotine mixture interacts with the nanotechnology, the structures disintegrate and disappear completely. La Quinta Columna is now testing this nicotine solution on Pfizer shot samples, and if successful, may have the beginnings of a treatment protocol for detoxing humans of this alien technology. This would include use of nicotine without additives, straight from tobacco, not cigarettes you buy in the store. Oh, they're positioning themselves for the... that's what I should just get in on... the Docs-approved vape juice for... Yeah. We're missing so many grift opportunities here, man.
We really are.
But here's the clip that they're basically pushing out there.
The following video is probably one of the most important that you will watch in today's world.
No, it's not.
Rafa Calvin from La Quinta Columna is looking at dental anesthetic at 100 times magnification.
Oh, better get my hidden nicotine to stop the nanobots.
You will see the nanotechnology, the microchips that self-assemble, and we've already seen those in the Pfizer vaccine and other injectables. Rafa has dried out the sample for 30 days, and then he is looking at the sample.
So a completely dehydrated sample in which you're going to get salt crystals emerge, and then he's dropped liquid back onto it. I mean...
And then it breaks down. Brilliant.
I don't know how... Like, are people really this moronic, right? Maybe...
You already didn't know that. That was a rhetorical statement.
Yeah, a rhetorical question. But maybe we should just let them get chewed up by the system and corralled like cattle. They're not going to listen to any sense.
Is there a way to grift without selling our souls?
I don't think so. I think so. That's the
price of admission.
Yeah. So
yeah, we should start selling T-shirts or something.
Speaking of T-shirts, I'm going to, for the sake of trying to, let me just bring this up.
Oh,
something useful. Go for T-shirts. We've got a design, and it goes to help members of the community as well who are let's see. I can open in browser. Did that open? No. Open in browser. There we go.
Oh my god. Oh, that is amazing. Oh. Can you zoom in a little bit?
I certainly can.
Oh god.
Oh wait, it won't let me.
I have to do. Oh my god. Yes. Yes. Oh my god, that's awesome. You know the only thing you need? You need to add a QR code.
That's on the back.
Is it really? Oh yes. Does the QR code go to the link to the videos?
We can make it do that, yeah.
You should do, or have like two, like one to donate and one that takes you a link to the live video feed. Kevin, do this and I will wear one every day. Oh my god. We need to put it on like whatever the Under Armour shirts that I love so much. Put on that material. Oh my god, I would wear that every day. I would wear that in the halls of Congress next month. I'd wear it to the Rescue the Republic like meet. Oh god. That is amazing. I love it.
So yeah.
Who did this?
This is Je suis fromage.
Oh my god.
So look, he needs help. And so a goodly proportion of that goes to helping him. And
that's amazing. Je suis fromage.
Yeah,
anytime I would love to come up and meet with you. I've heard about your Kevin's sojourn And
Just go in the warmer months would be my
yeah,
advice.
oh, but that is a worthy cause right there.
Yeah, yeah, and his graphic design skills, man,
Oh my God, that's awesome.
top tier. So, yes,
Kevin, I have to get one of these. How do we do it?
I think
This is amazing.
we're gonna. Well, he's still working through the
Logistics.
yeah, but he's got a plan of action and everything. But here I am giving a sneak peek.
Oh my God, that is incredible.
It says you got it in size fat. Yes, we intend to bombard the American market. It is in size fat.
Yeah, size fat.
Plus.
Or do we have a lanky streaky piss size?
The lanky string. No, that wouldn't sell many in the United
No,
States.
no, I just want to. I would have sent him one. That is incredible. Je suis fromage. Kudos. That is amazing. I want one so bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna start wearing one on stream if we get them.
Oh my God, that's great.
Oh no, it was in size fat nigger. I miss that.
Oh my God, I want one.
Cut off on my screen.
I gotta talk to him though, because we gotta talk about like the options. Because I gotta get it. I gotta get my favorite like Under Armour. I forget what's like. I don't know what it's called.
Spandex.
No, it's not spandex. It's like I don't want to look. I don't want to take out my shirt on screen unless that'll get donos. In which case, SARS-CoV Ricks on PayPal. Oh, there. Hey, for $100.
Yeah, man.
You can see all my tattoos.
Raccoon plushes.
Only half joking there.
Raccoon plushes. Yeah. Well, I'll think about it, but
That shirt is incredible. I want one so hard.
yeah. Subject XY03, 100 micrograms. No, it was more than that. He got no. What did he get? So he got 100. No, he got 10 microliters, which was 100 times the dose that you would give a human.
So was it
So
1,000 micrograms?
it would be 3,000, the equivalent of a person receiving 3,000 microgram. No, it's not micrograms, is it? It's nanograms.
Well, it's nanograms, but it's I don't remember.
Let me just. That's a chat GPT question.
I don't remember.
Fucking chat GPT is log in.
I think it like is listening to you and it knows if you're about to ask it a stupid question. So I like endless hamster injection. So Bean Lord says endless hamster injections for the fever dream. K-Car, but he can't use amazeballs cringe no more. What?
I don't know. You can't say the words amazeballs.
I can't say amazeballs. Fine. Hey, hey, for 750 quid or no, whatever dollars, or 120,000 yen.
Right. Japanese raccoon plushes folded 1,000 times, made by communist children in Vietnam.
Let's go. Kill all aliens. That we were talking about JC, and he says clearly not the gumball soldier simpers to his own light up tennis shoes.
No.
Beaming you with the rabbi bots from the Talmud Vision Towers. Can we get mugs like that one? Bisexual conservative grifter. Oh, I don't know which. I don't know which bisexual conservative.
That would be. What's he called? It's like he's the one that sits at the desk, like change my mind, right? When he'll go and.
Yeah, I know who you're talking. I can't remember his name now.
But yeah, he is a bisexual, grifting faggot.
Dave.
No, not Dave Rubin is a nailed on homo.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Is it Charlie Kirk? No.
No, he's a faggot as well.
That's true. They're all gay, but I Yeah, I can't remember the name.
Who is Mug Club? Mug Club, Mug Club, Mug Club. Someone in the chat will know.
Anyway,
Uh,
size fat is the funniest thing I've heard in a while. Well, just keep doing it here.
all right, so let's.
And make sure you're donating. Every time you donate, I'll take a hit of this vape, and that nicotine will kill the nanobots. So if you don't want us to die from the nanobots, you need to donate.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait one
Stephen Crowder, yeah.
Stephen Crowder, that's right. Yeah. Prouder with Crowder.
Donate so we can kill the nanobots with every hit.
Just give me a heads up when you do, so I can hit the mute button. So I tried to do that.
He's gonna hit his vape anyway. So
I'm trying. I can't. I'm locked out of.
of ChatGPT.
No, but that as well. But donos. If anyone sent donos.
I just send them all to me. It's all right. I'll be racist.
What am I looking for? Yeah.
Stephen Crowder. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. I don't know. Man, like, it's slop for the less discerning among the. Why isn't that working? No. This is
Nanobots are endosymbionts from Cthulhu. Interesting. So you're saying H.P. Lovecraft knew about nanobots? Interesting. Bean Lord says he's saving Rixie right now, so we'll see.
Saving Private Rixie. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we were doing this, and we were watching the video, and but basically, this is them. This is their experiment. So little salt crystals.
Something the very thing that could destroy nanotechnology. Rafa has confirmed exactly that.
Oh my God.
Please share this video everywhere. We are now looking at how we can deliver nicotine in the correct dosage in a liposomal form, just like the liposomal and microsomal that we use on the EDTA, which obviously gets rid of the spike protein, shedding, and helps in vax injury. This is life-changing.
And again, there's the issue here around nicotine is helpful because of its spikes binding to nicotinic
receptors.
Yeah, receptors. It's got nothing to do with nanobots. Basically,
Right, and just to add additional context to this, guess who wrote a PhD dissertation on nicotinic receptors?
I know, but
One Judas Cooey.
mm,
And guess who has never talked about nicotinic receptors in SARS-CoV-2? Judas Cooey. Instead, he went and pretended that he was an immunologist.
yeah, I guess. But then better to try and fool some bit. Like if he sticks within like the neuroscience domain, then he's gonna get called out pretty quick. Whereas, who really pays much attention to immunity? It's important, obviously, but
the US DoD does.
oh yes.
The NIH.
But why? Like, there's no need for liposomal nicotine, right? Just get like you're worried about it. Chew gum, or stick a fucking patch on your backside or shoulder, right? Nicotine is highly dissolvable in water, and it's why you get it's so easily absorbed.
तबीयत साफ हो गया सालो. You've had enough.
Boy, it's never enough. Thank you.
Or you could even take it as a suppository if you want, JC. I mean, whatever works for you.
Look, nicotine can make you feel goddamn awful as well, right? There are times, dude, when I'm like, I was getting like 10 milligrams per ml or 10%, whatever the difference is in this instance of this stuff, and I would hit these vapes and I'd be like, I don't feel it. And then for like 10 minutes I'd be like, oh my god, I'm gonna spew. And like gotta be careful. It's very difficult to kill yourself because you'll feel so rotten beforehand, but you can. I don't know how true it is, but I remember reading that there was enough nicotine in a cigarette to be toxic if you could get it all in one go. Which I don't know, man. I don't know if I buy that. The amount of nicotine I absorb, I'm maybe a baby, but which is why I vape in the car with the windows up. I'm hardening my children to so that they can take therapeutic levels of nicotine.
It's good fatherhood.
Look, man, it's what my parents did to me. I turned out all right, kind of.
I don't see it being Lord, so he must have donated.
Yeah, I think if that one was to you, if it makes Debunking go, that's usually Bean Lord. So, all right, let's get to this manuscript, and let's see. So, I have to orientate the mic a little bit. All right, so fibrin drives thromboinflammation and neuropathology in COVID-19. And why is this important? Because we are looking about if we're talking about protein misfolding and proteinopathy type disorders, one of the worst ones where you could think of it occurring would be in a peptide that has immediate physiological consequences. And fibrin obviously is involved in clotting, and so if that gets out of control, the potentials for immediate harm are high, obviously because of the circulatory system, the central nervous system, and prions. There's always a lag time, and potentially there's a lag time with this as well. But if you were sketching it out on your weapons board or weapons planning board, and you were saying, okay, we want to aim for protein misfolding, and we want to which peptide to target, fibrinogen would be up there as a major target, I would say. So, right. So, life-threatening thrombotic events and neurological symptoms are prevalent in COVID-19 and are persistent in patients with long COVID. Even though long COVID is fake and gay, apparently, experiencing a post-acute sequelae of SARS-CoV-2. Despite the clinical evidence, the underlying mechanisms of coagulopathy in COVID-19 and its consequences in inflammation and neuropathology remain poorly understood, and treatment options are insufficient. Fibrinogen, the central structural components of blood clots, is abundantly deposited in the lungs and brains of patients with COVID-19, correlates with disease severity, and is a predictive biomarker for post-COVID-19 cognitive deficits. All those markers again, Charles. Imagine that. Just
imagine my shock.
Here we show that fibrin binds to the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein, forming pro-inflammatory blood clots that drive systemic thromboinflammation and neuropathology in COVID-19. Fibrin, acting through its inflammatory domain, is required for oxidative stress and macrophage activation in the lungs.
Really?
Whereas it suppresses natural killer cells after SARS-CoV-2 infection. That's interesting. I wonder what the mechanism for that is.
Wait, so fibrin acting through its inflammatory domain is required for oxidative stress and macrophage activation in the lungs.
Yeah, so the idea that you don't need oxidative stress is a it's the nonsense level of the vitamin industry. There are signaling pathways that require oxidative stress signals to
Right.
properly activate, and obviously in this instance this is immune related, but
Right.
there are forget the list now, but there are a bunch, and it's the idea that you just want to quench all reactive oxygen species is it's not it's retard level thinking and biology. So where would we get to? Natural killer cells. So fibrin promotes neuroinflammation and neuronal loss after infection, as well as innate immune activation in the brain and lungs, independently of active infection. So I've just got to sort of pass. So fibrin is passing the blood-brain barrier. Is that what they're meaning here? Okay, so a monoclonal antibody targeting the inflammatory fibrin domain provides protection from microglial activation and neuronal injury, as well as from thromboinflammation in the lung after infection. Thus, fibrin drives inflammation and neuropathology in SARS-CoV-2 infection. And fibrin targeting immunotherapy may represent a therapeutic intervention for patients with acute COVID-19 and long COVID. Now, again, I don't want to, I'm never against useful therapies, but a immuno or antibody-based therapy is big money for the individuals that make it.
Well, that's what I was about to ask, is what is a fibrin targeting immunotherapy?
It would be an antibody. So you make that antibody
Some
with
monoclonal antibody? Or?
Yeah.
So kind of similar to something for like rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. So long COVID has emerged as a central public health issue that remains an unmet clinical need. What we would call long-term incapacitation. Coagulation and neurological complications in COVID-19 can occur during acute infection and persist in long COVID, causing morbidity and mortality. Notably, coagulopathy also occurs in young patients with COVID-19 with mild infections, breakthrough infections, and long COVID, and is associated with neurological complications. Blood clots in patients with COVID-19 remain resistant to degradation despite adequate anticoagulation. The prevalence and severity of coagulopathy and its correlations with the immune response and neurological complications in long COVID suggest as yet unknown mechanisms of COVID-19 pathogenesis. Hypercoagulability in COVID-19 is associated with extensive fibrin deposition in inflamed lung and brain. Fibrin is derived from the soluble blood protein fibrinogen after activation of coagulation and forms the central structural component of blood clots. Fibrin is deposited at sites of vascular damage or blood-brain barrier disruption and is a key pro-inflammatory, pro-oxidant activator of the innate immune response in autoimmune, inflammatory, and neurodegenerative diseases. Neurovascular injury and reactive microglia are detected at sites of parenchymal fibrin deposition in brains of patients with COVID-19. So just to disambiguate, parenchymal basically just means like the tissue component of the brain outside of or the internal side of the vasculature, meaning not the lumen where the blood vessels would be circulating through the brain.
Well, so fibrin is deposited at sites of vascular damage or blood-brain barrier disruption. Now, so is that because it's trying to repair the leakage?
Yeah.
Or can it cause problems itself by aggregating there?
I'm presuming because of if it's leaking, then so where would that be? Think outside of COVID, but where would that be a problem? Strokes, right? And you want some way to stop a bleed occurring. That's if you're thinking about the microvasculature
Right.
that sort of it's breaking down, and you need to say stop pumping in the blood here because it's getting through, and so you'd want to sort of seal that bit off and hope that whatever that has caused the inflammation or damage resolves itself. And look, as a peptide of consequence in neurodegeneration, it didn't sit high up on my radar. And how much has the literature moved on? I don't know. We could start looking through the references, and that's probably worth doing.
So it's not in this case. It's not saying that that's a bad thing in the blood as it aggregates outside of the blood, forming the helping to aggregate clots, which if they're these calamari clots, obviously is bad, but it can actually be something of a repair mechanism for the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
As opposed to alpha-synuclein and tau and other things.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
they would be the peptides of the parenchyma that are inside and on the cell surface of neurons.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is because of what it says next is BBB disruption correlates with brain fog and long COVID, and increased plasma fibrinogen is a predictive biomarker of cognitive deficits after COVID-19. However, the role of blood clots in COVID-19 inflammation and neurological changes remains largely unclear, and therapies to combat their effects are not readily available. And I wanted to point this out because whenever I was digging into furin expression and how that works, I learned that furin expression doubles to triples in a state of hypoxia. Thus, when your blood oxygen level goes below 90%. The blood-brain barrier, the permeability of the blood-brain barrier increases in a state of hypoxia as well. So, in a state of hypoxia, it's easier for things to pass through the blood-brain barrier, basically. So I'm just wondering, just for my own, if hypoxia aggravates this process, I guess, is what I'm trying to.
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a little segue, but it's just in my own head. And then that kind of, okay, so basically that's bad, and this, so is this saying that the blood-brain barrier can be, that damage of the blood-brain barrier can extend out for a longer period of time because of these different forces? Okay. All right.
Yeah. And the way I would envisage this is, so what markers are we pretty sure on that came out pretty early was the fibrinogen resistant amyloidogenic like clots, right? And so you can, so if they're aggregating enough together so that you can stain them and see them with a normal microscope, that means that there's actually quite a lot there. It's not just like a single peptide in and of itself. There's a whole bunch that needs to be there in order to be stained. But if the misfolding is occurring and it's happening at below the microscopic level, then you're that would go into essentially like when you get down to very fine capillaries where literally the blood has to go through one corpuscle at a time, and it requires, if you start making those sticky with these misfolded peptides, the blood just isn't going to flow as smoothly, and then you're going to be you're not getting the oxygen that the brain requires, or it's at a slow rate. And then we'd have to find out how much the misfolding is cross-seeding in this instance. Anyway, we'll move on. Here we provide evidence for a fundamental role of fibrinogen in the COVID-19 immune response and neuropathology, and identify a potential antibody-based strategy to combat the deleterious effects of abnormal blood clots in acute and long COVID. So fibrinogen binds to SARS-CoV-2 spike. Given that patients with COVID-19 have a higher frequency and severity of abnormal blood clots than other common respiratory viral infections, that can't be true. RNA can't pandemic. We hypothesize that SARS-CoV-2 directly binds to fibrinogen, promoting blood clot formation and altering clot structure and function. A solid phase binding assay revealed binding of fibrinogen and fibrin to the SARS-CoV-2 recombinant trimeric spike protein and to the spike S1 501Y mutant. And I want to say the 501Y mutant, isn't that when they were testing for AstraZeneca? That rings a bell. And I want to say that they were, why were they using that? Because they had to find a way to infect mice. Yeah, that's
I
what.
believe so. Without Zhao Yu being here, I can't say for sure.
Yeah, it was because the normal, well, short of using humanized mice, but I want to say in order to just test in rodents, that's how they did that, which enhances SARS-CoV-2 transmission and binding to mouse angiotensin converting enzyme 2.
Yeah, they explained it here, yeah.
So the affinity of spike binding to fibrin, 390 nanomolar for trimeric Wuhan spike and 98 nanomolar for spike S1, was lower than that of spike binding to ACE2, 1 to 15 nanomolar range. So what's that saying? So the affinity towards the fibrin peptide is basically orders of magnitude higher. It requires a higher concentration than it does with respect to the ACE2 receptor. That's what that means. So fibrinogen immunoprecipitated with full-length recombinant trimeric spike spike. Oh, they're looking at the figure. Fibrinogen immunoprecipitated with full-length recombinant trimeric spike. And this is where the dual, to do it this way because this monitor is small. Do this, then I can look at this. Right, so they were talking at 1C, and so they're looking at Western blots there. Let's try and get the figure. There we go. And okay, so you can see the Western blots and spike, fibrinogen, and spike input. So you can get your bands here, and I don't know what the other bands are in these lower regions. So anti-spike, what IB means, interfering antibody. So fibrinogen gives you a whatever 240 kilodalton, and then that's not making much sense to me. Let's see what it says here. See, fibrinogen immunoprecipitation with spike. That's literally all we get. All right. That was not so helpful. All right. So fibrinogen and spike co-localized in the lungs after either intranasal infection of mice with mouse proficient SARS-CoV-2 beta, figure 1D. D. Okay. So this is immunohistochemistry. Oh, it really doesn't like you zooming in. That's annoying. So blue is the background, DAPI, and then fibrinogen is red, and then spike is in green, and then it's just a composite of those three different stains, and we'll be able to do that in a few weeks. Oh, and of course, every time I zoom on that page, it zooms the other. What about if I download the PDF? That might, and that actually may be more useful here as well. Yeah, okay, so we can zoom in better there. So there, we can zoom in on the figure, and then I will do this. So they did intravenous injection into wild type mice of Alexa 647 spike. Yeah, that's that. S1 N501A. Alexa 546 Fibrinogen. Shown by 3D imaging of solvent cleared organs. Wow, so that's the Clarity type technology. Disco of cleared lungs, extended data, figure 1D. Yeah, okay. It's impressive techniques. And we ain't going to be able to pull that off, folks. Sorry. They're able to just make jumps in tech that we can't. All right. Suggesting that fibrin, fibrinogen, and spike interact in solution and in tissues. I'm not sure how you get that from that particular figure, but perhaps it will become clearer as we move on. Okay, so to identify spike binding regions in fibrinogen, we generated a custom fibrinogen peptide array of 319 15 mer, lengths of 15 peptides overlapping by 11 amino acids spanning the A alpha, B beta, and gamma chains. Hybridization with his-tagged trimeric spike identified 3 major binding sites in the beta and gamma fibrinogen chains, namely B beta 119 to 129, which contains cleavage sites for the fibrinolytic serine protease plasmin of, I don't know what that means, figure 1E, DE, E. Okay, so here they've pulled out and identified the specific amino acid sequences on this heat map. And like any peptides, you're going to have sequences where they slot into your enzyme of active or choice in this instance. And then you plot them out with respect to your trying to understand where they fit and bind together, and as a consequence they're able to identify these, how many is that, 10 11 amino acid key lock combinations, you can think of them. And what is the key to take away from that, which is where the spike is binding, and I'm not seeing that. Oh, I guess it's at the end. Is that what this is saying? This is the gamma chain. So alpha, beta, gamma, and the spike is binding to the beta, and in the gamma site is where the CD11B binding site. Okay. Sorry, dude.
I was just saying inside the RBD.
Inside the receptor binding domain of. Where did you get that from?
Is that's what they're referring to, the spike, right? Or is that
it's the full spike. So I haven't heard them describe where.
If that's full spike, then that's the CD11 binding site is inside the RBD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's a lot of supplementary data which we don't have in front of us as well, but I'm going to try and sort of get through this as quickly as possible. Reverse mapping of fibrinogen binding on SARS-CoV-2 variants revealed binding sites spike 37 to 103, which is not the receptor binding domain.
That's correct.
Spike 229 to 251, which would be
229 to 251. Interesting.
And 229 to 251 is that overlaps with the prion catalyzing epitope as well.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's 239 or 231 to 252.
Oh,
Let me
geez.
just
Yeah, hold
let
on,
me just pull that one up because that's an interesting little.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull up my master class here. I got a master sheet that has all these on here.
Wait 1 minute, folks.
Nope. I'm gonna beat you to it. No.
I got it.
Damn it. Hold on. Oh.
If it would load.
Okay, so you say. All right. So prion-like. Well, actually, prion-like domain 269 to 277. 274 to 294. Basically, this entire. Well, actually, I don't remember exactly where it starts and ends, but it covers.
No, it's 532 to 551. That's the prion seeding. And
well, that's a separate one. But there's other prion-like domains, and that's
yeah.
one of those falls within there. Yeah.
So that's the. Let's pull that paper up. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can't remember if it's 274 to 294. I think that's what it is.
Okay, let's bring that.
It's a prion-like domain. Trying to pull up the references.
I have it.
No.
It's this one.
Prion-like. Where's the link?
Okay, so they have spiked 258 right there. Bring that up for people. Right there on the screen. See that?
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I was right on that. I just needed to pan over to a different part of my spreadsheet here. Yep, there's the image. Yep. Yeah. So that was 262 to like 269 or something. But yeah.
So yeah, those amyloidogenic sites coming front and center again.
And actually, I don't remember you said because what was the other one? It was 19.
So the prion specific one was the 532 to.
Can you scroll down on the thing you just had pulled up from the paper we were reading?
This one.
No. You had it on the screen from the paper that we were reading. Yeah, the zoom in. Just scroll down slightly and then scroll back that way. I was just trying to see the first one. Okay, 163 to 181, and then 364 to 385. Okay, never mind. Sorry. I was just making sure. Okay.
All right.
Carry on.
I'm trying. It's a. Well, I like Nature papers. There's a whole bunch of information sort of thrown at you, and sometimes a longer paper where things are more expanded upon are useful. Let's do this. All right, so what did we get to? The spike numbers, right? So spike 229 within the N-terminal domain, S1 subunit within the receptor binding domain, spike 1049 to 1063 within that S2 subunit. Computational docking identified a model with the best docking energies with close association between fibrinogen, gamma 364 to 395, and spike 37 to 103. So it's essentially the very, very beginning of the spike protein. Mm. Okay. All right. So we next tested whether spike interferes with the polymerization, degradation, and inflammatory properties of fibrin. Incubation of spike with healthy donor plasma in the presence of thrombin, which is elevated during COVID-19, resulted in altered clot structure shown by scanning electron microscopy and increased turbidity of fibrin clot formation. So that's this figure. And I mean, the most obvious tell is that there are these nodules and bumps all over the fibrin in this instance, whereas the healthy is, it's almost like it's sort of forming more rope-like, clean rope-like structures, whereas in this it's like monofilaments and nodular in its appearance. And so the function of a peptide is a lot determined by its shape, and the ability to break it down or precipitate out from solubility to insoluble, like you'd want in clotting, and then break it down as you would need to do so you can disperse the clot afterwards. You've got to maintain form and shape, and that is very obviously malformed, particularly if I'm sort of looking in this upper right hand quadrant. You can see how it's very, very sort of single monofilament, and so if they're making longer rope-like structures as you see them under electron microscopy, in this you're getting the filament, and then I'm presuming those nodules must be the misfolded components that would basically form part of the larger peptide. That's how I would think about this. But yes, it is different, and then the question becomes, well, how self-catalyzing is that reaction, and then what would be the consequence of exposure to spike protein in the plasma following vaccination? That's what I would ask. So yeah, so we tested with polymerization, degradation, and inflammatory properties of fibrin. Incubation of spike with healthy donor plasma. We did this, resulted in an altered clot structure shown by scanning electron microscopy. Incubation of spike with fibrin delayed plasmin degradation of both the beta chain and the gamma dimer, suggesting that spike delays fibrinolysis. These findings are consistent with the formation of dense fibrin clots within thin fibers in thromboembolic diseases and fibrinolysis-resistant blood clots in patients with COVID-19. So basically, that's something that we knew very early on, and this is, well, it just backs up that finding. And think back to the manuscript we did, which was Pistorius as well, where they've done the what did they call it? It's basically sort of filtering out where they would do it with cells, flow cytometry, and they called it something else. It's clot cytometry or something along those lines, where they were basically able to take the clots and sort them by size, right? And basically it's sort of it's flow cytometry, so you're basically making the cell move one by one down a capillary tube, and then it sort of sucks it out, and they get larger and more microclots in the COVID condition, even when they compared it to normal ME/CFS type conditions. That was the take home of that.
So it's like a super ME/CFS.
Yeah.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't gamma and beta, aren't those the primary components of the clots that they were analyzing coming from cadavers?
Yeah, that was.
Wasn't that like at least 50 or 60% of the clot makeup?
Yeah, it was one. Let me see if I can just find that real quick.
Because I know between the alpha, beta, and gamma, it wasn't in that order, but the three of them were like three of the top four.
Yeah, let me just bring
in the
that.
composition. So I think
I want to say it was gamma that they were. It doesn't.
yeah, I don't know if it was that one,
download
but
PDF.
it was gamma. Gamma was at the top, and then I think it was beta followed by alpha, if I remember correctly. I don't remember if it's this one or the other one.
This is the.
This is the chemistry one, but it's
Yeah, so fibrinogen beta chain followed by gamma followed by alpha. And it's supposed to be alpha, beta, gamma, I think, in normal clots.
yeah.
But yeah. I'm gonna put this in the chat as well for people to
Yeah,
follow
that's great,
this.
And there's another paper too. I can't remember which one it is that where they did the same thing. They came up with basically the same thing, slightly different percentages. But yes, so that
Yeah, so super MECFS
super MECFS, and you're seeing incorrect
ratios.
ratios.
Mm.
Interesting. And it's those incorrect ratios are also part of what makes it harder for the, I guess, lysis, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, is it lysis? So digestion. So it's enzymatic digestion, you would say. Breakdown.
okay.
Enzymatic breakdown or digestion. Lysis is like the breaking of a cell.
Yeah.
So perhaps we can see here in H. Is there some quantification here? Beta chain, gamma chain. Maybe the text is more elucidating. All right, so these findings are consistent with the formation of dense fibrin clots with thin fibers in the thromboembolic diseases, fibrinolysis resistant blood clots in patients. So fibrinolysis, you're correct. Notably, spike increased fibrin-induced release of reactive oxygen species in a concentration-dependent manner in bone marrow-derived macrophages, while the spike alone did not have an effect. Wait, I need to read that again. Notably, spike increased fibrin-induced release of reactive oxygen species in a concentration-dependent manner in bone marrow-derived macrophages, while spike alone did not have an effect. That doesn't make much sense to me.
I can't read it, so it's not on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm trying to keep the figure on the papers. I'm basically reading through their verbal description of the figure, and it's rather than trying to sort of keep jumping back and forth. So, figure 1I, this. So, reactive oxygen species, fibrin spike is low, fibrin plus spike is low, fibrin and then increasing spike increases reactive oxygen species. Okay, that's relatively straightforward. That's this one here, right hand side of the screen.
Gotcha.
Suggesting that SARS-CoV-2 virus enhances fibrin-induced inflammation. Okay, using alanine scanning mutagenesis, we found that spike interacts with amino acids 386 to 394 in the C-terminus of the gamma 377 395 peptide, figure 1J. This one. So if you can extract anything from that. So basically, that's the N-terminal domain, and then they're adding spike, I presume. And then here you can see the 3D structure.
Yep.
I'm unfamiliar with what that test is, though. And this is the main site for binding of the CD11B domain to fibrin.
Well, they're just testing with that little switch what the intensity is at each amino acid, but
blockade of the fibrin amino acids 386 to 394 epitope with 5B8, a therapeutic mouse monoclonal antibody against fibrin gamma 377 to 395 peptide, inhibited the interaction between human fibrin and spike and suppressed spike-enhanced fibrin-induced ROS release from bone marrow-derived macrophages. Inhibition of the fibrin-spike interaction may be influenced by the higher affinity of fibrin 5B8, so 26 nanomolar, than for the spike 390 nanomolar, as well as additional binding sites between spike and fibrin. So basically all that's saying is the fibrin antibody in the mouse, from the mouse, will bind to at a far lower concentration and far more vigorously than the spike will by itself, which requires far higher concentrations. Okay, so stereotactic injection of fibrinogen and spike in the mouse brain increased fibrin-induced microglial reactivity. Now that I want to have a look at, because that's basically what we're setting up to do, is inject, well, in this case, vaccine plus spike. And maybe we need some fibrinogen recombinant peptide to, well, you know, look, man, once you've plunged cannula into the brain, you'll get bleeding in there. So, but I want to see how they've controlled for that. 3F. Yeah, there's no figure. Open link in new tab. Okay. There it is. All right. 3F. So IBA1 is the microglial activation marker that you can stain the brain with. So here they've put just PBS, spike, fibrinogen and PBS, fibrinogen and spike, and basically you can see a whole bunch more microgliosis. Now, what they don't really show is where they injected that in the brain, and I'd like to see the tracks and the volume, but probably in the methods. Go back. I've lost the... Oh, it's dumped me in the... I've got to go all the way back up to the top. All right, so we got to the brain. Okay, so overall, these results reveal a role for fibrinogen as a SARS-CoV-2 spike-binding protein, accelerating the formation of abnormal clots with increased inflammatory activity. So fibrin drives inflammation. So conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin exposes its cryptic inflammatory gamma 377 to 395 epitope. Genetic or pharmacological targeting of this epitope has potent therapeutic effects in autoimmunity and inflammatory diseases. Wild type, fibrinogen deficient, FGA negative, and F, fibrinogen gamma 390 to 396 mice, which express mutant fibrinogen that retains normal clotting function but lacks the gamma 390 to 396 motif for binding to the receptor CD11 to CD18 were infected intranasally with SARS-CoV-2 beta variant that is naturally mouse adapted. So we can go to figure 2A. There we go. Okay. In wild-type mice, infection-induced macrophage infiltration and alveolar hemorrhage, and these were reduced in the knockout mice and FGG mutant that has that little tail end mutation. Fibrin induces oxidative stress through CD11 to CD18 mediated activation of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, so NADPH oxidase, which is linked to severe disease and thrombotic events in patients with COVID-19. The knockout and mutant mice had significantly less GP91 FOX NADPH oxidase subunit and less of the oxidative stress marker 4-hydroxynonenal, I think you would say that, in the lungs after infection than did the control mice. Collagen deposition in severe COVID-19 cases is linked to progressive fibrotic lung disease. Collagen accumulation was significantly reduced in the lungs of infected negative of the knockout mice and the mutant mice compared with wild type. Fibrin deposits were absent in the in the knockout mice as expected and decreased in the one where the mutation is on the tail.
So all we just need CRISPR to save us.
I'm
not advocating for it, but
it's
that's what they're gonna say.
I'm not.
It's gonna be their answer. We just need gene therapies.
Yeah, gene therapies to sidestep these.
Yeah, we'll save you with our hyper expensive gene therapies.
Well,
after creating the problem,
how to? I'm presuming there must be more holistic ways of getting into this rather than letting them go ham with gene vectors.
Yeah, probably hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah,
we'll find out that they knew all along.
Yeah, that would well.
I mean, we already know. I mean, not necessarily for this, but yeah, that's. But no, it wouldn't surprise me if they knew exactly how to deconstruct this, and they're just not. I mean, similar to the fusion inhibitors, where they're just, oh well.
Yeah, when, and I suppose John, Broken Truth, just did such a good job of laying that out.
Yeah, I mean, he just.
Right, if it was just a mass conspiracy prior to, and as events just started unfolding, and when the factories that produce that blowing up, right, you've got to start thinking, man, that they ain't got our best health in mind in this instance.
Yeah. That would be the yes, that'd be the key takeaway.
It was they only just retracted that hydroxychloroquine paper, right?
Yeah, the one where they talked about how they were killing patients with it.
Yeah.
It only took 4 years.
Yeah, and so this is why it's important.
Probably his documentary probably had a lot to do with that.
I hadn't thought of that, but yes. Very true. And the the question you have to ask yourself is, or how to look at this is, they'll say, well, the paper got retracted. But yeah, if it's 4 years, which is why it's really important that you have a project like what we're doing, which is essentially independent of those captured institutions,
Yep.
right? So at least there's space and like the potential to be able to test this stuff as quickly as possible. So the next one, if there's one coming, and if Geert Vandenbosch is right, maybe we're in that. Like what we're getting now this summer is a taste of what's coming in the winter this season.
Well, he's been off by a little bit, and once again, it's tough to tease out what is ADE versus what I would call IgG ADE, which is a different mechanism, and also other immune dysregulation factors that might be playing into it. So it's hard to know, but hearing about the more severe cases is concerning, because that is what you would expect to see.
Yeah. And even if you were just dealing with your bog standard antibody dependent enhancement, that's bad enough, right? Because that's lethal.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is lethal. So you then throw in that you've done this class switching, and then throw in that you're in this evolutionary game where, well, I'm not sure if I was calling them right, which is basically non-specific antibodies, right? But it was sort of like he describes it as I should sit down and watch some Geert Vandenbosch. I haven't for a long time, but as far as I recall, it was like non-specific, meaning they're generalizable antibodies that everybody has them. Now, my question would be, surely there are individual differences between people that would make it such that getting round one person's or one population's, if there's some clustering within populations, means it doesn't get round everyone's. So in effect, you would sort of see a sort of domino effect as the emergent strain got round each particular racial demographic.
Yeah, I would say so, because it's a domino thing would kind of make sense, because what do we see with ADE? When is it emerging most obviously and most aggressively is in specific populations, specifically highly dense populations of animals. Whenever they were doing, I think it was chickens. I mean, credit to Dan Sorokin for introducing this concept to me, but basically that dense closely related populations can
Genetically, you mean?
genetically, yeah. I could see how that could work. We do. I actually saw a video of his like 2 months ago, but
Dan.
sorry, no.
Geert Vandenbosch.
Geert Vandenbosch.
Yeah, I would watch
His last
them.
one was with Macmillan.
Yeah, I sort of got tired of, it's this time, it's coming. And
Yeah. I mean, he's cried wolf quite a bit, but maybe the process is just slower than he was assuming it was going to take.
Yeah, which is why I sort of steer clear of. Every time you put
predictions and
yeah,
projections,
yeah, just its potentials. That's how you should be describing stuff, and
right, and his in the process he's talking about isn't happening in a vacuum. There's other factors involved, and so it's he speaks with such authority, but his background is in veterinary medicine, and so he's familiar with ADE arising out of vaccination of large populations of animals.
Mm.
When,
So basically, factory agriculture.
right. So
Yeah.
it's not an exact it's not exactly analogous to
Mm.
human populations. There is more variation. There is a bunch of other factors. Our immune system's a little bit different, and not all of us got the jab. So,
Mm.
but we'll see. And what we should see, if it is more of that ADE, then what you would expect to see is that in highly vaccinated countries, that's where you'd see the signs first.
Which
So,
is where we are seeing it.
which is where we are seeing it. Yeah. So
And what was the data point yesterday, which is the excess deaths are high in the UK, but the way they've rejigged the model is essentially their standardized model is sort of covering up those extra.
yeah, they just set a new baseline basically.
Yeah. So it set a new baseline
Okay.
after there was this massive culling of the population.
It's like grading on a curve and just changing the curve. Yeah. All right. We'll grade public health on a curve, and but public health is in charge of the curve.
Eesh,
That's
eesh,
what's
eesh,
happening.
eesh. So there's a bunch of gene upregulation and downregulation here. I'm
Yeah,
not going to spend a whole bunch.
Yeah, this is dense. This
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
this
yeah,
is a
there's-
good paper.
Because like I think
they go
the
deep.
main or the components here
Well, JackStat
was
Interference
covered in
signaling.
Figure 1, and fibrin drives inflammation. And I don't know enough to speak intelligently beyond. Okay, they've got up and down regulated pathways, and
Oh yeah, and just looking at what goes up and what goes down. So interferon signaling down.
mm,
IRF7 activation down, JackStat down, and then up, heme metabolism, CRAS signaling, keratinization, muscle contraction.
mm. And NF-kappa B pathway as well, right down there at the bottom. So that goes up in wild type and not in
Oh,
the
I see.
knockout
Yeah,
mice.
up. Okay, got
So
it.
it's
Yeah,
like the way they've sort of, that hasn't been labeled well, because I would interpret that
Yeah.
as down, right? So these all go down,
Yeah,
and then these are going up.
that
re-
was labeled.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not the person to be asking about these pathways. So, what sticks out here? CCR5, chemokine receptors are upregulated. Natural killer cell cytotoxicity goes up. And yeah, like I said, you've got to be inducted into all these acronyms, and there's only a few that I really recognize there, as they're just so outside of my.
I wish we had NARF or World's Carp.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so all right, that was for inflammation. All right, so we next assess the effects of fibrinogen on the lung transcriptome. So I think we're still in this paper. So I'll read through it and maybe it'll become clear. So fibrinogen deficiency reduced the expression of genes of inflammatory pathways such as SARS coronavirus and innate immunity. And it's just list after list of an acronym. So IFIT2, IFIT3B, IRF5, MYD88, CXCL10, TNFSF9. I guess that's interleukin 1 and LIF. Regulation of type 1 interferon signaling. IFIT, interferon. Yeah, see, they're coming up with their own. IFIT3B, IRF5, and the JackStat pathway, and NF-kappa beta pathway. The type 1 interferon response is elevated during active infection and persists as a biomarker for long COVID. Overlay of gene expression data with the human type 1 interferon induction and signaling during SARS-CoV-2 infection pathway showed a 73% reduction in type 1 interferon regulating genes in the knockout mice. Indeed, expression of type 1 interferon gene CXCL10, which encodes a key inflammatory cell chemoattractant that is induced by fibrin and is associated with cytokine storm and severe COVID-19, was markedly reduced in infected knockout lungs compared with controls, figure 2D. Maybe we can just look at some anatomy, because I can see some there. All right, so by contrast, expression of natural killer cell expressed surface antigen encoding genes, so I've never heard of these dudes, KLRB1A, KLRA9, and the cytotoxic gene PRF1 was increased in infected wild-type mice compared with infective controls. So natural killer cell expressed surface genes was increased in the knockout mice. So that, to me, means that they're mounting an immune response compared to the controls. That's how I'd interpret that. Expression of natural killer cell expressed surface antigen encoding genes. Right, so is that to signal to natural killer cells, eat me? Yeah. The missus says to me every weekend. What's that from? The Exorcist, right? Eat me. The expression of natural killer cell expressed surface antigen encoding genes, and the cytotoxic gene was increased in infected knockout mice compared with infected controls. Accordingly, natural killer 1.1 expressed in natural killer cells, NKT cells, and ILC1 cells, as well as NKp46 and granzyme, were upregulated in the lungs of infected knockout and the mutant tail mice, or the peptide, not the mouse tail, suggesting a role for fibrin as a regulator of natural killer cells in infection. Yeah, but I'm reading that as it was increased more in the knockout mice, fibrin gamma knockout mice. So reduced natural killer cell recruitment and activation impairs virus elimination and has been linked to poor outcomes in COVID-19. Oh, right. So it's increasing the signaling, the surface antigen signaling. So it's a beneficial mutation then, that knockout, to say natural killer cells come on, eat me in this instance, and as a consequence, they're able to deal with infection better. Okay, so in plaque-forming assays, virus levels were reduced in lung lysates, suggesting that the effects of fibrinogen could be attributed to regulation of immune pathways or lower levels of the virus. I don't know, dude. Although there was a trend for reduced viral titers in lung lysates, FGG gamma, the titers were too variable to be statistically significant. A robust increase in natural killer cells coupled with decreased viral production in the lungs after fibrin depletion or inhibition of fibrin's interaction with the receptor CD11 to CD18 during SARS-CoV-2 infection is consistent with increased activation of CD11 deficient natural killer cells during tumor surveillance. Right, so in effect, so dysregulation of fibrin is reducing the surface antigen required for natural killer cells to do their job, which is clear up the infected cells. The infected cells are then basically going into or the ability to be surveilled for tumor development is reduced.
And they're aggregating?
Doesn't say anything.
Yeah, I didn't really see that here.
So fibrin suppresses natural killer cells. So to determine the mechanism of fibrin-induced natural killer cell suppression, we first performed bulk RNA sequencing analysis of fibrin-stimulated primary mouse natural killer cells and identified 277 downregulated genes and 76 upregulated genes. So that's all supplementary data. Fibrin suppressed genes encoding molecules that control natural killer cell mediated immunity. Again, there's a whole list of acronyms here. I'm not reading out. Cytokines and chemokines. The response are to reactive oxygen species and translation. And again, supplementary data. Fibrin markedly suppressed a network of pathways, including mitochondrial function, leukocyte migration, cytokine chemokine production, inflammatory response, proliferation, and MAPK. And using quantitative mass spectrometry, phosphoproteomics, and kinase activity analysis, we globally characterize the dynamics of protein phosphorylation and kinase substrate relationships. So that means I need to go back to figure 3 now. So I don't know what to make of all these. It came after when I was at school. Let's see what we can get out of this. So fibrin market. So basically, whatever's red increased, whatever's blue decreased. Z-score is just significance. So it's a measure of significance in your or type of statistical analysis, where basically anything we used to use anything above 3 point, what's that, about 3.4 has a Z-score. Above that, it was significant. Those Z-scores look low to me. Again, you've got to be inducted into all this genomic regulation, and doesn't mean a whole bunch to me.
Yeah, you're right. Z-scores are low.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Even I know that.
So I'm unsure. Like, maybe that means a whole bunch to people who work in this domain, but it doesn't to me. So B, fibrin suppress the natural killer cell gene network, and again, the bigger the circle is, the bigger the interaction, and the I guess the lines connecting them are weighted as well. But again, short of saying that each one of those domains are interrelated, what it means, I don't know the impact of that, right? Except fibrin suppressing natural killer cell gene network. Okay. So, phosphoproteomic network analysis revealed that compared with interleukin-15, fibrin reduced the induction of JAK-STAT5, mTOR, and LCK pathways, which are essential for the effector functions, energy metabolism, and survival of natural killer cells in COVID-19. Now, all I keep thinking here is this is very spike protein specific, and I would just make the presumption that what's happening with, because what are they doing? They're using recombinant peptide in this instance, and so anything that's happening with the recombinant peptide, I would argue, must happen with the spike protein that would be translated from the vaccine itself.
Right.
That would be my take-home message at the moment. Natural killer cell versus macrophage pathway comparison. Yeah, a whole bunch, not meaning. It's all very cryptic to me. Sorry, I can't be of more use in this. So, furthermore, fibrin reduced surface expression of natural killer cell activation markers, which we are deciding is a bad thing because you want natural killer cells to take out those cells. In contrast to its effects in primary macrophages and microglia, in natural killer cells, fibrin suppressed cytokine activities, interferon response, inflammation, MAPK signaling, proliferation, response to lipid, viral processes, and NF-kappa beta signaling. Indeed, comparison of kinase signaling responses between fibrin-treated natural killer cells, this study, and fibrin-treated macrophages, revealed that fibrin differentially regulated signaling pathways in 2 cell types. Okay. Let's go back. So we next tested whether the pathogenic effects of fibrinogen in COVID-19 depend on its inhibitor effects on natural killer cells. We infected wild type knockout, the mutant end of the gamma fibrin, with SARS-CoV-2 beta after natural killer cell depletion with anti-NK1 antibody. Depletion of NK 1.1 cells abolished the protection provided by fibrinogen depletion, indicated by increases in macrophages, oxidative stress, M protein, and spike in the knockout and mutant peptide. These findings indicate that fibrinogen is required for SARS-CoV-2 infection in the lung and pulmonary lesion formation for inflammatory activation and suppression of viral clearance involving natural killer cells. Which, you know, it makes sense if you're like natural killer cells being a pretty primary component that you would want. You know, cell gets infected, it's got to be taken out, and there's this sort of cartoonish idea that when a cell is infected, it just makes peptides till it makes so many virions that it bursts. And I think that's very it's an old way of looking at how viruses work. Okay.
Well, and that's not how the mRNA works. So,
Right. Right.
which is even worse.
So infection-independent fibrin functions. So persistent circulating SARS-CoV-2 spike has been reported in long COVID. We hypothesize that the interplay between fibrin and spike might regulate thromboinflammation in COVID-19 beyond active infection. We generated HIV virions pseudotyped with trimeric spike that are... Oh, hang on, it just dropped me to the end of the page. I was just getting good. Okay, so basically, pseudo-typed HIV virions. So why are they using that? Because it's a classic, it's a mainstay in making these pseudo-typed viruses, and then they're stitching in the spike protein, and then infecting their mice with this. Who did this study? Where was this done? Was it UCSF, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Gladstone Institute of Neurological Diseases. Yeah. So they would have the resources to be able to deploy all these.
Is that where you were?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. I was about to say UCSF.
All right. So, because like I say, the methods that are deployed in this paper, this is my first time reading it. So there's been an enormous amount of work to pull out and extract this data. and it would be way beyond. Well, we would need other people here with those skill sets, and like the basic histology, and I can do that, and the anatomy. Messing around with HIV pseudo virions, and not so much. I can inject stuff in the brain. That's easy. All right. So, okay. So similar to recombinant spike PVs. So that PV is just pseudovirions from now on. So spike pseudovirions co-immunoprecipitated with fibrinogen and increased fibrin-induced oxidative stress in bone marrow-derived macrophages. Spike pseudovirions given by IV injection into wild-type mice induced extensive fibrin deposition in lungs. So figure 4A we need to go to. 4A. This is a bit more easy to interpret. There's actual anatomy there. So yeah, you're looking at the spike pseudovirions in the wild type, and then the knockout mice that don't have this fibrinogen cascade. And what is GP91? But anyway, there's far more of it, and you can clearly see the differences between wild type and this knockout mice. I want to just find out what GP91 Fox is.
Like a protein.
Is the heme binding subunit of the superoxidase NADAPH oxidase. Okay. Indicating oxidative stress. Okay. So so red, increased red, and more oxidative stress in the wild type. It's reduced far less in the mutant. Okay, so by contrast, control bold meaning pseudovirions without spikes, I think is what they mean, or pseudovirions expressing the envelope protein from the HIV did not induce these effects, suggesting that lung pathology was specific for spike. So wild type and the mutant tail for the gamma had reduced macrophage activation and oxidative stress in the lungs after spike pseudovirion administration for BC. In a mouse model of fibrinogen-induced encephalomyelitis, a co-injection of spike pseudovirions increased fibrin-induced microglial activity. And they just do extended data. Let me try and find that. Well, I mean, it's basically going to look like the brain immunohistochemistry we saw before, which is increased macrophage activation with exposure. All right, so so 9I, yeah. So that's basically what we saw before. So suggesting that spike enhances the inflammatory function of fibrin in vivo. These results suggest a fibrin-dependent mechanism that elicits inflammatory and oxidative stress responses in the presence of spike in the absence of active infection, which could therefore have a role in long COVID. Notably, we do not believe that this mechanism is related to the rare clotting complications observed with adenovirus-based COVID vaccines because the production of anti-PF4 autoantibodies and ensuing drop in platelet counts are triggered by the vector rather than the spike. Yeah, what's the... I remember this at the beginning, and I'm... what was that? 36. Pathologic antibodies to platelet factor 4 after ChAd-OX1 vaccination. And I don't know how much I believe that study, right? Because I think the adenoviral vector vaccines would have, I think they got rid of them because the translation efficacy fidelity was higher, and it's putting out far more spike protein than the
mRNA.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, that's what I think. But yeah, they got rid of those real quick. All right. So in general, COVID-19 RNA vaccines lead to okay. So here's all the caveats that come with it. So basically, this whole paper has been one of the spike can catalyze all these cascades in fibrinogen, basically turn it into an, well, they're not looking at amyloidogenic form per se, but a dysregulated form such that it's visible under electron microscopy. And now is coming the caveat that the vaccines can't do it because the platelet interactions, or the antibodies targeting the platelets, and the COVID-19 RNA vaccines lead to small amounts of spike protein accumulating locally and within draining lymph nodes, where the immune response is initiated and the protein is eliminated. That there is incorrigible from where you should be reliant on these institutions for objectively measuring these effects. And we need to go through the methods to see what the concentration of recombinant peptide they were giving. But we know that the lipid nanoparticle goes everywhere, right? That's not up for debate. And we know that it's pumping out spike for far, far longer than they claimed. So what was difficult to read but interesting paper has just took a massive nosedive for me. So, consistent with the safety of spike mRNA vaccines, mRNA vaccines prevent post-COVID-19 thromboembolic complications, and a cohort study in 99 million COVID-vaccinated individuals showed no safety signals for hematological conditions. I'm just interested which.
Sorry, I sent you an old. I just thought it was funny and slightly relevant. Where Debunk the Funk says, "Got any evidence that spike changes the conformation of other proteins and is transmissible on its own?"
Yeah, this is the evidence right here in front of you, right?
Yes, actually. Then it's not a prion. Wait until you find out about all the endogenous human proteins that meet your nonsense criteria. Well, you know what? I don't see a bunch of endogenous human proteins causing this. So, yeah. I came across that nugget from May 13th, 2023. I was trying to bookmark some, or put some stuff in highlights, and I came across that bookmark. So, anyway.
Yeah. And like I said, I didn't focus, like fibrinogen wasn't on any radars when I was in institutes looking at this. And, you know, you had your canonical peptides that, research had sort of taken you to. And yeah, now we're finding that there's this horrendous interaction between spike protein and essentially one of your first line peptides against injury and assault, right? Which is your ability to clot efficiently and safely. But yeah, is that literally their discussion? Was that it? No. So it goes on. So we're still in the results. So they've literally put that in the middle of the results section. I feel that there was a lot of, well, was there arm twisting? Look, HughCSF is highly dependent on NIH funding, and it's very, very easy. This is a open goal for people who can say, look, I don't want to be exposed to that peptide in any form where it has this reactivity embedded in it. And we've looked at it sort of sits prominently, well, across those sort of amyloidogenic components outside and inside the receptor binding motif. All right, so fibrin targeting antibody in SARS-CoV-2. So neutralizing fibrin toxicity is an attractive therapeutic strategy for neuroprotection and selective suppression of pathogenic inflammation. The monoclonal antibody 5B8 targeting the fibrin inflammatory domain of the gamma subunit provides protection from autoimmune and amyloid-driven neurodegeneration without adverse effects on hemostasis. We tested the effects of 5B8 after IN infection, intranasal infection, with 2 different variants of SARS-CoV-2 in models with and without neuroinvasion, as well as in the spike pseudovirus non-infectious model. Mice were infected with 10 to the 4 plaque-forming units and 10 to the 3 plaque-forming units for 3 and 7 days post-infection, respectively, for optimal survival and pathological alterations. In wild-type mice infected with SARS-CoV-2 beta, prophylactic administration of 5B8 reduced macrophage activation, oxidative stress, collagen accumulation, fibrin deposition, and viral spike and M protein expression, while increasing natural killer cell responses in the lungs compared with isotype IgG2B treated controls. Figure 5. Let me just bring that up. All right. So bless you, sir.
That just means my nicotinic receptors are full.
All right, so figure 5A and 5B, and whatever. I don't see much difference there. IgG2B. What's the cyan color? Yeah, well, it's not clear to me what the cyan color is, right? It doesn't zoom, right? Why wouldn't they label that? I mean, it's my eye. It's supposed to be two different shades of blue, right?
Supposed to be. My eyes are getting old too, though. So.
Okay, whatever. Okay, so no differences in the viral titers in the lung lysates were observed, potentially due to titer variability. Therapeutic 5B8 administration 24 hours after infection decreased macrophage activation and oxidative stress assessed at 7 days. Figure 5C. 5B8 spatially correlated with fibrin-rich areas in the brain of beta-infected wild-type mice, demonstrating target engagement. These findings suggest that fibrin-targeting immunotherapy suppresses SARS-CoV-2 pathogenesis. And that was a real quick way of skipping through that figure. Is there more? Well, like I said, it seems to be, they haven't labeled correctly the figures here, but we'll just have to make the presumption that their 5B8 super antibody is basically stopping the inflammation and natural killer cells and all the inflammation markers that they've decided to look at. So COVID-19 neuropathology is characterized by microglial reactivity and fibrin deposition, grey matter decrease, and microhemorrhages and small infarcts and myelin alterations. COVID-19 neurological symptoms and neuropathological alterations have been attributed to secondary effects of systemic SARS-CoV-2 infection, such as cytokine storm and thrombotic complications, or to direct viral infection of the brain. We first tested the role of fibrin in the absence of brain infection using SARS-CoV-2 beta mouse proficient variant that is not associated with neuroinvasion. I wonder why that would be. In beta-infected C57 mice, we found fibrin deposits in the brain at sites of microglial reactivity 7 days post-infection, reminiscent of neuropathological alterations observed in patients with COVID-19, as well as infected hamsters or mice. Prophylactic or therapeutic administration of 5B8 decreased microglial reactivity in the hippocampus after beta infection compared with IgG2B isotype control. Accordingly, FGA wild-type knockout and the gamma mutation mice had reduced microglial reactivity in the hippocampus after SARS-CoV-2 beta infection, suggesting that fibrin promotes neuroinflammation in COVID-19. Yeah, so that's what's the figure here on the screen, right? And the FGA knockout has far less of the IBA1. It's pretty clear, which is this panel here. Okay. All right, so we next tested the effects of fibrin immunotherapy on a humanized mouse model of neuroinvasion using the Delta SARS-CoV-2 variant, which has been associated with risk of long COVID. Brains from intranasally infected K18 mice had extensive microgliosis, as reported previously, associated with upregulation of disease-associated microglial markers. Okay. Sorry, dude.
I'm just saying oi.
So we found fibrin deposits at sites of microglial reactivity and decreased myelin intensity in the frontal cortex and rostral migratory stream area. Yeah, okay. So there's green basically being the microglial activation, and you can see it sort of co-localizing with the fibrinogen. Okay. no differences in viral titers in lung lysates were observed, potentially due to basically copy and pasting. We just read that. Prophylactic 5B8 administration decreased microglial reactivity and white matter injury compared with the IgT2B isotype control. In infected mice, 5B8 reduced the loss of cortical neurons or cow-binding expressing interneurons, 5J. Right? So IG2. So the thing to look at here is, so cow-binding is the interneurons here, which is the fluorescent green. DAPI is just the background and basically increased density there. And, you know, it's very easy to get a selective viewing with that particular data. Now they've done some quantification here. I'd like to know how that's been done. But you can see that there's more cow-binding positive in this antibody. Their patentable antibody. Let's see. Therapeutic 5B8 also improved survival rates with concomitant effects on weight loss. Humanized mice had to be euthanized after reaching humane endpoints. The effects on survival could not be assessed past day 9. Transcriptomic analysis of the brains of Delta-infected humanized mice show that 5B8 suppressed genes encoding pro-inflammatory cytokines, chemokines. There's a whole list here I'm not reading out. Interferon-induced genes and genes encoding receptors, toll-like receptor 7, interleukin-6RA and interleukin-7, and coagulation factors PLAT and PLG, while increasing the expression of homeostatic genes CX3, CR1, IRF3, and HPGD. Gene ontology network analysis revealed that 5B8 downregulated pathways related to proliferation of interleukin-6 signaling, chemotaxis, and response of type 2 interferons, consistent with human multiomic profiling of brains of individuals with COVID-19. Finally, 5B8 reduced inflammation and oxidative stress in spike pseudovirions injected mice, suggesting that neutralizing fibrin could have a protective effect during persistent presence of spike beyond active infection. Thus, fibrin targeting immunotherapy provides protection from pulmonary pathology, neuroinflammation, and neurodegeneration in COVID-19. So, that's their results. Well, like I say, the implicating fibrinogen outside of normal circulatory processes, i.e. Clotting, and correlating it with neurodegenerative processes, I think is, like, literature-wise, it's a big jump. I would need to go back, or I would need to start reading more around when did fibrinogen and neurodegeneration start emerging. What happens if you just do PubMed and fibrinogen neuro? So, in 2024, 6 manuscripts, 2023, 10, 2022, 7, 2021, 15, 2027, 2019, 7, 2018, 8, and then it just drops off.
So this is a new...
Generally, I mean, I don't know, like, there are a couple of mentions going back to like 1984, but like the numbers are at like 1, and I don't know, like, if I click on what those manuscripts say, let's say it's not something that was in anywhere approximating so if I just read out so I just did 1994 to 2000. I'll bring this up on the screen. You can see the numbers are low, 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 start to increase, like 2, 3 citations. 2015 was, my sort of stint in academia, and it's low numbers. And yeah, it would. So to find something that's pathology, like, well, not pathology, pathogen related, and then in something so widespread and so common as fibrinogen. Yeah, it's one of those. It's a manuscript a bit like the PRION. It's basically changing the perception with respect to alpha-synuclein, amyloid, and thinking of them as prion-like disorders, which basically happened around sort of 2012 to 15. I can remember that happening because I was just like, oh, that was a big jump forward. And so this sort of interaction is, and if there's fibrinogen being deposited in the brain parenchyma, well, I'm surprised it hasn't been identified before, but you've got to know what to look for, I guess. So there's a discussion. I don't know if we really want to do this. Sure, I'll read it. So, although clotting complications in COVID-19 have previously been attributed primarily to systemic inflammation, our findings suggest that coagulopathy in COVID-19 is not merely a consequence of inflammation, but rather serves as an apical driver of infection-induced thromboinflammation and neuropathology. Our data reveal a causal immodulatory role for fibrinogen and thromboinflammation and neuropathology in COVID-19. Our findings suggest that fibrin promotes neuropathological alterations either indirectly by inducing hyperinflammation through modulation of natural killer cells and macrophages in the infected lung, or directly on microglia owing to its parenchymal deposition in the brain after extravasation through a leaky blood-brain barrier. Indeed, fibrin was sufficient to induce heightened microglia reaction in the presence of spike in the brain, even in the absence of peripheral infection. Furthermore, fibrin blockade abolished neuropathology in COVID-19 animal models, regardless of neuroinvasion. Yeah, see, that's a big deal, man. It changes what we should be doing,
regardless of neuroinvasion.
So, in effect, we want to be dropping in fibrinogen into the, like when we inject into the brain. All right, so this mechanism might perpetuate the hypercoagulable pro-inflammatory states at sites of microvascular injury, has been reported in patients with acute infection and long COVID. We show that fibrin has an immunomodulatory role, promoting increased viral load and thromboinflammation. COVID-19. Natural killer cell recruitment and activation are modulated by extracellular stimuli and interactions with monocytes and dendritic cells. Through genetic loss of function studies, multiomics and functional assays on primary mouse and human natural killer cells, we show that fibrin suppresses transcriptomic and phosphoproteomic signal transduction pathways, controlling natural killer cell cytotoxicity, proliferation, and migration. In vitro experiments in purified natural killer cells stimulated with interleukin-15 suggest that fibrin interferes with interleukin-15 signaling. Thus, the effects of fibrin in vivo could be due to either regulation of interleukin-15 signal transduction or by limiting interferon and downstream interleukin-15 levels. These findings support a model in which coagulopathy functions as an extrinsic signal that may negatively regulate natural killer cell effector functions or recruitment through fibrin deposition. A procoagulant state leading to fibrin deposition in tissues may be particularly relevant to the impaired clearance of viral infections, where misdirected natural killer cells and activated macrophages contribute to disease severity. The fibrin-induced suppression of natural killer cells that we observed is consistent with enhanced cancer cell survival in vitro after co-culture with fibrin-stimulated natural killer cells, suggesting a role for fibrin in other diseases with vascular damage and impaired natural killer cell cytotoxicity, such as cancer and autoimmune diseases. Kind of like what we're seeing now, basically. And, well, it comes down to they don't know how much spike protein has been pumped into the population. Right, it's a ballpark or a back of the envelope calculation.
Yeah, well, they know how much has been delivered. They don't know how much has been produced endogenously.
Right.
So
yeah, I should rephrase that. They know how much genetic material should have been delivered. They don't know how much has been produced because it's basically acting like a prodrug. No, that's not even right, because a prodrug you're able to calculate.
yeah, prodrug, you're able to calculate the output.
Yeah.
This is just, your body's going to make some proteins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some of it will work.
and we don't know exactly what it's going to make, and we don't know how long your body will make it for. But we tweaked it to make sure that it would take that it would last for a much longer time than normal.
Right.
So
As you do.
as you do.
All right, so increased blood-brain barrier permeability associated with parenchymal fibrin deposition is a feature of COVID-19 neuropathology. In the brain of some patients with COVID-19, detection of spike and viral RNA suggests potential neuroinvasion. Our data and previous literature support that while spike can enhance fibrin toxicity, even in the absence of spike, fibrin is deleterious in diseases such as multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, colitis, and periodontitis. Sorry, gum disease. I was trying to figure out what that was. Yeah. Thus, fibrin may be deposited either together with spike when spike is present in the brain, or through an open blood-brain barrier after peripheral infection without neuroinvasion or spike coupling. Accordingly, the in vivo efficacy of 5B8 could depend on the inhibition of fibrin binding to spike. This study to its anti-inflammatory properties in brain and periphery at sites of fibrin deposition, suggesting a dual mechanism of action for the fibrin immunotherapy in COVID-19. Given the hypercoagulable state in patients with COVID-19 with brain fog and the role of elevated plasma fibrinogen in increasing blood-brain barrier permeability in mice, high plasma fibrinogen levels in COVID-19 may contribute to blood-brain barrier disruption and ensuing neuropathology. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. Importantly, we show that targeting fibrin is neuroprotective regardless of animal model, viral strain, or neuroinvasion, suggesting a global deleterious role for fibrin in COVID-19 neuropathology. Our study has several limitations. While we use quantification of myelin basic protein intensity and the percentage of myelin basic protein area to demonstrate decreased myelin, future studies using electron microscopy will be required to measure demyelination. As the physiological spike concentration in the brain is not fully known, dose-response studies would be required to identify the lowest spike concentration that can enhance fibrin-induced neuroinflammation. Going by what we see, I'm going to wager it's to the low end of the spectrum. In addition to lung, other tissues such as heart, gut, and brain can be analyzed after administration of spike pseudovirions to test the role of fibrin in non-infectious animal models. You know what? I wonder if that's something we could do. Because pseudovirions are a class 2 methodology. You could buy them. Because non-infective.
What kind would you want?
That would express spike protein.
No, I know that, but like, there's
The pseudovirions?
a couple different.
No, what they've
Methodologies.
used here. The HIV-based ones.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah. I have to be expensive, I'd imagine. All right, so where were we? Limits. So we performed proof of principle in vivo studies to test the efficacy of 5B8 in 3 animal models, COVID-19. Further preclinical pharmacology will be necessary to evaluate therapeutic window, dose response of antibody and viral titers, role of age, genetic background, and therapeutic effects in additional species. Given the heterogeneous patterns of COVID-19 neuropathology influenced by disease severity and viral strain, the thromboinflammation mechanism that we described represents only one of the pleiotropic mechanisms of neuroinflammation within the spectrum of COVID-19. Together, data from pathology, radiology, and serology in patients with acute COVID-19 and long COVID, as well as genetic loss of function, pharmacological and transcriptomic studies in 3 animal models establish fibrin as a key driver of inflammation and neuropathology in SARS-CoV-2 infection. Fibrin immunotherapy may represent a strategy for reducing systemic thromboinflammation and neurological manifestations of COVID-19 in both acute and long COVID, compounded by cumulative risk of memory impairment and cognitive disorders due to breakthrough COVID-19. Additional strategies are needed to provide protection against long-term disease burden. Fibrin immunotherapy may protect from cognitive symptoms associated with COVID-19, as genetic elimination of the fibrin inflammatory epitope protects against Alzheimer's disease mice from synapse loss and cognitive impairment. You know, I'm just thinking, like, Biden, how many vaccines did he receive? 5? 6?
Who?
Biden.
Oh, I know at least like 5. I don't.
But just think how crippled he looked now, right? And I just wonder how much of that is a consequence of.
Yeah, but he was so fucking old anyway. I mean, it's hard to tell. But
Mm.
I mean, he's had a dramatic drop off. I'm not familiar with what the average rate of decay is,
It varies.
but his has been incredibly rapid.
Mm. Maybe some of this antibody was needed. But no, we don't want that. Keep it away from him. All right. So basically, it's just a bit like their therapy being the bee's knees, and they need more money and resources sinking in. Maybe.
Speaking of, I'm trying to find SARS-CoV-2 pseudovirus products just to see. Can't find specific. Oh, they don't list prices.
Yeah, that's always the case. Was you get the sticker shock after you've decided you want something. Yeah. So that's the paper. Let me just catch up with the chat here. All right. So if Gert's idea was the IgE from jabbing allows the virus to evolve in the jabbed as if they're immunocompromised, I agree. No, it's basically that you hyper focus the immune system on the initial strain, and whatever these non-specific IgGs are that protect you, basically just get circumvented. Well, I suppose yeah, that's what he's saying. So husband friend just had the worst flu he's had. He's put it down to not having his yearly flu shot. He's trying to get my husband to get a flu shot, even though it's spring here now. Luckily, my husband can see his friends probably had it bad because he was having yearly flu shots and COVID shot have all weakened his immune system. Yeah, that would make sense. My sister, who lives in the countryside, thinks that all she needs to do is ignore world affairs and hide away in her countryside ideal, and all will be well in the end. Maybe. I wish I was in a country ideal way, but we can't, or I can't. I reminded her of the saying that all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing, and told her I'd let her know if there's anything I hear of that she can do. Well said. A bad flu-like illness recently could be whatever COVID strain came out of the Vax super spreader Democratic Convention. Yes. Is this fibrinogen binding more evidence SARS Fauci appears to be engineered? Look, man. I would like to know, and I just don't think that information is available to... Well, no, that's not right. So we know that this microclotting is occurring in ME/CFS type conditions. So the question becomes, why is it worse, measurably worse in SARS in response to exposure to SARS spike protein. And the fact that it sits outside the range of the normal pathogens that normally are where you put that disease burden, I would say you can't discount it at the moment. And then that would just fit with you're in a biowarfare paradigm right now and take nothing for granted.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my default. I think that's the kind of thing that I would do to take as a starting point for a deep dive, kind of like I did with, the FCS insert or the other HIV inserts, is going back and first looking at, okay, kind of papers like this to try and nail down what epitopes or what aspects of the virus are triggering this process, and then to see if we can see a scientific path going through the literature that's leading to it. But I haven't done that, so I can't answer the question, but that is a good question to ask, because, and like I started with, the default should be, we should assume, the null hypothesis should be that they have an understanding of what these processes are, and just given what occurs in it, we have to also assume that if they have this knowledge, that it's dual use and that it may have arisen from bioweapons research.
Yes. Yeah.
And the only other thing I'll say is that, yes, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Well, guess what? You have 1.5 good men here. So just keep supporting us. I'll let you guess which one's the half and which one's the whole.
All right. So the change from fibrinogen to fibrin needs thrombin. Yes. My dad just lost 2 pints of blood from polyps in his colon. Near lost him. He's scheduled his 10th COVID shot next week.
It's a bad combo right there.
Yeah. Let's see. He and Mum believe in them. The facility he's at has COVID. He's not long for the world. That's sad. Must be very tough to deal with. Yeah. Look, man. Look, when you're old, look, should you stop people from getting access to a medical treatment if it's available? No, I don't think you should. And if you wanted them, if you wanted mRNA gene transfections as you should be allowed to have them. But should you be forcing or mandating or using social pressure techniques to deploy them? No, not in my world. Let's see. I wanted to do this. Let's go through this. There was a nurse that shuffled off the mortal core but dissolved and injected many Siggy bots. I don't know what that means. And Good Doggy's showing us the IgG paper conversion. But yes, that's happened in many people now, that IgG transformation. And again, the way to deal with this sort of type of complex biology is, I'm a believer in treat the symptoms as they emerge and try not to mess too much with, let the healthy body come out the other side, and if that it'll get adapted, and the bodies will respond as needed. The population genomics will respond as needed. All right, so I think that's us done. I wasn't able to log into not Skype, but other sign in. I just want to see if there was
What are you trying to see?
just if anyone sent a dono today.
Apparently, Beanlord did.
He did. Thank you, Bean Lord.
He said it was for me, but
Yes, I will give it to you. Why isn't it giving me my? No, don't want that. If you said it, don't. Oh, there it is. And drum roll, I want to say thank you to Gaza, More Damn Beans, and Vov. Much appreciated. We will see you in the next stream, and maybe we'll do that HIV, SARS, CoV-2 paper.
Oh, yeah, my paper.
And there's also a manuscript looking at, well, inheritance and the role of amyloids. Sounds riveting. All right. Out of here, or we're out of here, I should say. And with that, we'll bid you adieu. See you in the next one, folks. Take care. God bless. And don't let the spike proteins coagulate.
Sich die Geschichte nur das ist. You are free. But I warn you, if you make any further inquiries, or if you say a single word to anyone about what you have seen, there will be the most dire consequences for you and your family. Do you understand?